AITA for taking back my engagement ring after my fiancée mocked me at dinner? I'm Paul, 34, and until a few months before the wedding, I honestly believed being a fiancé meant protecting the person you loved, even when they embarrassed you a little. I was the guy who remembered vendor deadlines, kept extra phone chargers in the car, saved confirmation numbers, and told myself every sharp joke from Vanessa was just wedding stress wearing a nicer outfit. Vanessa was 32, and we had been together long enough that people stopped asking if we were serious and started asking when we were finally picking a date. When I proposed, she cried in that quiet way that made me feel like I had done something right. She held the ring up in the kitchen light, turned it side to side, and whispered, "You make me feel safe." Back then, safe sounded like love. It meant I showed up. It meant I answered when she called. It meant I remembered the name of her favorite wine and kept pain relievers in the glove compartment because she always forgot. It meant when she spiraled about family drama or money or plans falling apart, I could usually help her breathe again. Somewhere during wedding planning, safe stopped meaning steady and started meaning boring. At first, it came as little jokes. We would be at dinner with her parents, Denise and Frank, and Vanessa would squeeze my arm and say, "Paul already has the whole menu memorized. He probably laminated it in his head." People laughed. I laughed too, because it was harmless enough. Then it became, "Paul doesn't really do surprises. Unless you count buying batteries before the smoke detector dies." Then, I never had to wonder where I stood with Paul, which is sweet, but also, very Paul. Then one night, when we were out with her sister Maya and her maid of honor Brittany, Vanessa said, "Some men keep you guessing. Paul keeps you hydrated." Brittany laughed into her margarita. Maya gave me a small, apologetic smile. Vanessa looked proud of herself, like she had found the perfect punchline and I was supposed to be honored to play the setup. I tried to talk to her about it privately after that. We were in the car, sitting in our driveway with the engine off, the dashboard still glowing. She was scrolling on her phone, thumb moving fast, face lit blue-white by the screen. I said, "Can I ask you something without you turning it into a fight?" She sighed. "That's a great opening. I'm asking you not to make me the punchline." Her thumb paused, then started moving again. "Paul, seriously? Seriously. It's just family humor. You can't survive marriage if every joke bruises you. It's not every joke. It's the same joke over and over." She finally looked up, then stopped acting like one. The car went quiet except for the soft ticking sound it made after being driven. I remember staring at the steering wheel, trying to decide if she had meant that as a joke too. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, "Come on, don't be dramatic. I'm marrying you, aren't I?" That sentence should have comforted me. Instead, it sat in my stomach like a warning. Wedding planning made everything worse. I took over the practical stuff because Vanessa said details stressed her out. She wanted the wedding to feel effortless. I wanted it to actually happen. So I handled the shared calendar, the vendor deadlines, the payment reminders, the spreadsheet with deposits and balances. I was the authorized payer on several contracts because I was the one who answered emails quickly and kept my card on file. Vanessa loved the fun parts. She loved dress appointments, cake tastings, cocktails with bridesmaids, sending inspiration pictures at midnight. She hated talking about retainer deadlines, seating chart drama, and final head counts. So I did those things. Not because I needed control, because I thought partnership meant each of us carrying what the other found heavy. Then I started noticing things that didn't fit. Her phone was always face down. Not sometimes. Always. If she went to the bathroom, it went with her. If I walked into the kitchen while she was texting, the screen locked before I reached the counter. One night, she was making tea and left our shared tablet on the couch. It was synced to her messages because she used it for wedding notes, and a notification flashed across the screen. "Ryan, you still deserve someone who makes you feel alive." I didn't touch the tablet. I didn't open anything. I just stared at the preview until it disappeared. When she came back, I said, "Who's Ryan?" Her face changed for half a second. Not guilt exactly. More like irritation that I had seen something I wasn't supposed to see. "He's just someone who knows me from before," she said. "Don't be weird." "Before what?" "Before us. It's not a big deal." "What does he mean by someone who makes you feel alive?" She rolled her eyes. "He talks like that. It's cringe." I barely respond. Then she picked up the tablet, disconnected the message sync, and said she was tired. After that, I started paying attention. Not snooping. Paying attention. A few days later, an email came from Mrs. Coleman, the venue coordinator. Hi Paul, confirming Vanessa's requested update to the seating chart and payment schedule. Please review by Friday, so we can keep the final balance timeline accurate. I read it twice. Vanessa had moved my uncle and two of my close friends farther back without mentioning it. She had also changed the first dance song to one she said she hated when I suggested it months earlier. None of it was life-ending, but it bothered me that I learned about it from a coordinator instead of the woman I was about to marry. When I brought it up, Vanessa said, "It's just seating. Why do you need to approve everything?" I don't need to approve everything. I need to not be surprised by emails about my own wedding. Our wedding, she snapped. Exactly. She looked away and muttered, "This is why I don't tell you things. You turn everything into a committee meeting." I should have taken that sentence more seriously. The second preview I saw on the shared tablet was from her bridesmaid group chat. I had opened the tablet to check the photographer contract because it was saved in our wedding folder. The messages popped up across the top before I could look away. Vanessa, Paul is safe. Safe is useful. Brittany, useful is better than broke LOL. Vanessa, he won't call off anything. He's too invested now. Another message came in right after. Vanessa, he hates being the bad guy. I closed the tablet and sat there for a long time. The thing about humiliation is that sometimes you don't feel it all at once. Sometimes it arrives in pieces. A joke at dinner. A message preview. A look exchanged across a table. You keep explaining each piece away because admitting the pattern means admitting the person you love knows exactly where to press. That night, I made a folder on my laptop called Wedding Records. I hated that I was making a folder like that. I hated more that I felt relieved once it existed. I saved vendor contracts, payment confirmations, bank transfer receipts, the engagement ring receipt, emails from Mrs. Coleman, and screenshots of anything involving payments or changes made under my name. I wasn't building a bomb. I was building a record because a quiet voice in me kept saying, "You may need proof later that you weren't crazy." A week before the dinner, Vanessa joked about the ring while we were folding laundry. She held out her hand, wiggled her fingers, and said, "At least if things go sideways, I keep the shiny part." I looked at her. That's a weird thing to say. Oh my God, Paul. It was a joke. You keep saying that after saying things that don't sound like jokes. She dropped a towel into the basket. You're exhausting when you get insecure. I almost told her then that insecurity wasn't the same as noticing. But I was tired. Tired of asking for respect like it was a favor. Tired of being told I was weak because I didn't laugh when people made me small. The dinner happened on a Saturday night at Denise and Frank's house. It was supposed to be an engagement dinner, though we were already engaged. Denise said she wanted one proper evening before all the chaos. That meant Vanessa's parents, Maya, Brittany, two bridesmaids, a few family friends, and me seated at a long dining table with candles burning low and wine glasses multiplying by everyone's plates. From the beginning, I felt like I was being evaluated. Denise asked 3 different times whether I had handled the final venue payment. Frank asked if I was nervous about married life, then laughed when I said I was more excited than nervous. You should be a little nervous, Frank said, cutting into his steak. Marriage isn't a spreadsheet. I said, I know that. Denise smiled over her glass. Paul, sweetheart, spreadsheets are your love language. A few people chuckled. I let it pass. Then Denise turned to Vanessa and said, You know how lucky he is, right? Vanessa gave a dramatic little sigh. Trust me, Mom. I remind him. I looked at her, waiting for her to soften it. She didn't. Brittany leaned forward. Paul does keep things organized, though. I'd kill for that. Vanessa smiled. Organization is nice. It's not exactly passion, but it's nice. Maya looked down at her plate. I took a sip of water and kept my face still. Then Denise lifted her glass. To Vanessa and Paul. May he always remember how lucky he is that she said yes. The table laughed again, louder this time. Vanessa stood halfway, glass in hand, cheeks pink from wine and attention. I'll say this, she said. Paul is proof that sometimes safe wins by default. A few people burst out laughing. Someone said, Oh no. Brittany covered her mouth, but she was smiling. Vanessa looked at me, waiting for my usual polite laugh. I didn't give it to her. She kept going. Not every woman would settle for someone so predictable. That word landed differently. Settle. I put my water glass down carefully. Settle. That's the word you want to use tonight. The laughter thinned. Vanessa rolled her eyes. Don't make it weird. I'm asking what you mean. Frank leaned back in his chair. Come on, Paul. She's teasing. Denise said, marriage requires thicker skin than this. Vanessa gave a small, sharp smile. See? This is what I mean. Safe is nice, but safe gets exhausting. The room changed. I felt it. Not because people suddenly defended me, but because even they knew she had crossed from teasing into something else. Then she said the line that ended my engagement. Honestly, I could forget him in a week. I already know someone who would treat me like I actually deserve. For a second, nobody moved. Then one of the bridesmaids made a nervous little sound like laughter trying to escape a locked room. Denise took a drink. Frank stared at me, like he was daring me to prove something. I looked at Vanessa. Her chin was tilted up. She looked pleased with herself. Not drunk enough to be unaware. Not angry enough to be out of control. Just proud that she had made me bleed without raising her voice. I thought about Ryan's message. I thought about the bridesmaid chat. I thought about too invested to leave. I thought about the ring receipt in my folder and Mrs. Coleman's emails and the payment reminders waiting in my inbox. I said, is that what we're calling me now? A settlement. Vanessa's face tightened. Oh my God, Paul. Everyone knew I was joking. I'm not arguing with a toast. Then why are you embarrassing me? That almost made me laugh. I looked around the table. I'm embarrassing you? Denise set down her glass. Paul, don't ruin a beautiful evening because your ego got bruised. Frank said, this is what marriage is, son. You need thicker skin. I nodded slowly. Maybe. Vanessa relaxed a little, thinking I was folding. Then I said, Vanessa, I need the ring back. The room went completely silent. Her hand moved under the table on instinct. What? I need the ring back. You're seriously doing this in front of my family? You started this in front of them. Her eyes flashed. You don't get to punish me because your ego got bruised. I'm not punishing you. I'm believing you. Brittany whispered, Paul. I kept my eyes on Vanessa. My voice was calm, but my hands were cold under the table. If I'm so easy to replace, then you don't need my ring to remember me. Denise stood up. Absolutely not. Vanessa, do not give him anything. He's being manipulative. I turned to Denise. I have the receipt. If we need to handle it through attorneys, we can. I'd rather not do that at your dinner table. Frank's jaw tightened. You going to walk out every time marriage gets hard? I looked back at Vanessa. Marriage didn't get hard. She needed witnesses. Vanessa's face had changed now. The smirk was gone. What replaced it wasn't sadness. It was panic. Not because she had hurt me, but because I was reacting in a way she hadn't planned for. You're overreacting, she said. Maybe you should call the person who treats you like you deserve. Her mouth opened, then closed. Maya looked up sharply. That was when Vanessa knew I knew something. For a few seconds, the only sound was silverware shifting as people tried to become invisible. Vanessa slowly pulled the ring off. She held it in her palm, like she might change her mind, like she was waiting for her mother to save the moment. Denise said, Vanessa, no. But Frank didn't speak. Vanessa placed the ring on the table, not in my hand. I picked it up, took a small envelope from the inside pocket of my jacket where I had tucked vendor receipts earlier, and placed the ring inside. I didn't throw it. I didn't make a show of it. I sealed the flap and put it in my pocket. Then I stood. Vanessa's voice shook with anger. You're really leaving? I said, I came here as your fiancé. I'm leaving as the man who finally believed what you kept saying out loud. Denise said, a man who really loves a woman doesn't run the first time he feels uncomfortable. I looked at her and said, I gave her chances in private. She chose public. Then I left. The weirdest part was how badly I wanted her to run outside and prove I was wrong. I sat in my car with the doors locked, both hands on the steering wheel, shaking so hard my fingers hurt. My phone lit up again and again. Vanessa, Denise, Brittany, Vanessa again, Maya once, Denise 3 more times. A vendor reminder popped up right in the middle of it. Final venue balance due in 10 days. I laughed once, but it came out broken. The ring was in the center console, sealed in that plain little envelope. I kept looking at it like it belonged to someone else. Vanessa texted first. You humiliated me in front of everyone. I typed, deleted, typed again, and sent one sentence. I believed what you said in front of everyone. She replied instantly. Everyone knew I was joking. You looked insane. Then, you don't get to cancel our wedding because you're insecure. Then, answer me. Then, my mom is crying. I put my phone on Do Not Disturb and drove home. I didn't sleep much that night. I kept waiting for regret to hit, but what hit instead was a strange, heavy clarity. By sunrise, I knew that if I let the wedding keep moving, the dinner would become the first story people told about our marriage. The night Vanessa called me a settlement, and I stayed. I wasn't staying. At 7:12 the next morning, I opened my laptop. My first email went to Mrs. Coleman at the venue. Due to a serious personal matter, please freeze any future charges under my authorization until further notice. I am not approving additional payments, changes, or final balances at this time. Please confirm which retainers are non-refundable and which deadlines remain pending. Mrs. Coleman replied within an hour. Paul, I'm sorry to hear this. You are the authorized payer on this contract. We can pause future charges, but the retainer is non-refundable. I'll send a breakdown of remaining balances and cancellation terms. No drama, no judgment, just policy. That email felt like oxygen. I sent similar messages to the florist, the photographer, the DJ, and the catering contact. I paused what I could pause and canceled what I had the legal right to cancel. Some retainers were gone. Some balances had not yet been charged. One vendor offered a partial refund if the date was rebooked. Another simply said, I'm sorry. The deposit is non-refundable. I accepted it. I wasn't going to steal shared money or punish people who had nothing to do with our mess. I moved only the wedding fund money that had come directly from my separate account into an account under my name. I left anything that was clearly shared untouched until I could speak with an attorney. Then I removed Vanessa's access from the wedding spreadsheet and shared calendar where I was the account owner. Watching those notifications disappear hurt more than I expected. Venue walkthrough. Florist balance. Final guest count. Marriage license reminder. Deleted. Removed. Paused. By mid-morning, the family group chat had turned into a courtroom where I had already been convicted. Denise wrote first. A real man doesn't cancel a wedding over hurt feelings. Frank followed. You need to decide if you want to be right or married. An aunt I barely knew wrote. Vanessa is devastated. This is cruel. Brittany added. Maybe everyone should calm down. Last night got out of hand. Vanessa wrote. He took my ring and left me sitting there like trash. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long time. I wanted to unload everything. I wanted to send screenshots, receipts, Ryan's name, the whole ugly timeline. But anger makes people sloppy, and I was done giving Vanessa new ways to call me unstable. So I sent one message. I came to dinner as her fiancé. I left as the man who finally believed what she kept saying out loud. I will not discuss this further in a group chat. Then I left the chat. That afternoon, I sent a neutral message to a small list of close guests who needed to know before travel arrangements became a bigger problem. The wedding is paused due to a serious personal issue between Vanessa and me. I'm sorry for the disruption and will share logistical updates when appropriate. Please do not contact vendors on my behalf. It was cold. It was formal. It was the only thing I could write without bleeding into the keyboard. Vanessa didn't respond well to losing control of the story. By Sunday evening, she posted an Instagram story with a black background and white letters. Some people show you who they are when things get real. Then another. Imagine being punished for one joke. Then a third, which was a picture of her left hand without the ring, captioned, Never beg someone to choose you. Mutual friends started texting. Hey man, what happened? Is it true you walked out over a toast? Vanessa says you got cold feet? I didn't want to win the internet. I wanted people to stop helping her rewrite what happened. Before I decided what to do, Maya called. I almost didn't answer. I liked Maya, but she was Vanessa's sister. I expected pressure, tears, maybe a softer version of Denise. Instead, when I picked up, she said, I should have said something before tonight. Her voice sounded small. I sat down at the kitchen table. About what? I thought she was venting. Then I realized she was testing how much you'd take. I closed my eyes. Maya said, I'm sending you something. I'm sorry. The screenshots came through one by one. The first was a chat between Maya and Vanessa from 2 weeks before the dinner. Vanessa, sometimes I think Paul needs to feel like he could lose me. Maya, that sounds unhealthy. Vanessa, no, it makes men try harder. Maya, Paul already does everything. Vanessa, that's the problem. He does it like a husband. I want to feel wanted, not managed. Then another. Vanessa, if I embarrass him a little in front of mom and dad, he'll step up. He hates looking weak. Maya, or he'll get hurt. Vanessa, he won't leave. He's paid too much. I read that one until the words blurred. He won't leave. He's paid too much. The next screenshots were Ryan. Vanessa, I miss being wanted like that. Ryan, you always had more fire than this. Vanessa, don't say that unless you mean it. Ryan, I'm not saying leave him. I'm saying don't forget who you were. Vanessa, sometimes I wonder if I picked safe because safe wouldn't leave. Ryan, safe guys usually don't. There it was. Not a misunderstanding. Not wedding stress. A script. Then Maya sent one final screenshot. It wasn't from Vanessa's phone. It looked like something forwarded from someone Ryan knew. Ryan, she's bored and engaged. I'm not getting dragged into a wedding meltdown. For a minute, I just sat there, staring at the wall above the kitchen table. The house was quiet in that awful way a house gets when the future you planned has already moved out. Maya texted again. I know this doesn't fix anything. I just didn't want them saying it was one joke. I replied, thank you for telling the truth. She wrote, I'm sorry I waited. I believed her. The next morning, I scheduled a consultation with an attorney. I brought the ring receipt, vendor contracts, bank records, screenshots, and email confirmations. I expected to feel embarrassed explaining that my fiancée had mocked me at dinner and I had asked for the ring back like a scene from someone else's life. The attorney didn't flinch. She looked through the documents and said, do not argue about the ring over text beyond one clear request. Depending on the situation, engagement rings can be treated differently, so we'll handle that carefully. For the vendors, you can stop authorizing future payments under your name. Do not touch money that is not clearly yours. Keep communication written. I said, I wanted revenge for about 10 minutes. She nodded. Then want receipts, dates, and clean exits. That became my plan. Vanessa kept texting. You're destroying my life. My family thinks you're unstable. You made me look insane. You owe me closure. I replied only once. Future communication needs to be by text or email. I am not meeting in person. I will not discuss reconciliation while you are publicly misrepresenting what happened. She wrote back, you're throwing away years because I made one stupid joke. I answered, I'm walking away because you planned to make me small and expected me to pay for the room. She didn't respond for almost 4 hours. Then she sent, Maya had no right. That told me everything. A few days later, Brittany called. I let it go to voicemail. She texted instead. I didn't know it was that bad. I laughed because I thought it was just venting. I didn't realize she was doing it to your face too. I stared at that message for a while before answering. You knew enough to laugh. She wrote back. You're right. I'm sorry. I didn't know what to do with that apology. It wasn't nothing, but it wasn't enough to rebuild anything either. The bridesmaid group split after that. I heard this from Maya, not because I asked, but because she kept sending short updates like she needed me to know the truth had not been buried. Brittany told the others Vanessa had been mocking me for weeks. One bridesmaid said Vanessa was just scared. Another said I was dramatic. Maya sent the screenshots again and asked, where exactly is the joke? Nobody had a good answer. Ryan disappeared exactly the way people like Ryan disappear when fantasy starts asking for rent. Vanessa apparently messaged him after the dinner, asking him to at least tell people this meant something. He blocked her. Maya didn't send me that screenshot until later, and even then, I wish she hadn't. I didn't enjoy it as much as people might think. There is a strange sadness in watching someone gamble with your life and lose to a person who was never even sitting at the table. Denise tried one last time about 2 weeks after the dinner. She called from a number I didn't recognize. I answered because I was waiting on a vendor call back. Her voice was tight and polished. Paul, this has gone far enough. I almost hung up, but something in me wanted to hear exactly how she would frame it. She said, you embarrassed my daughter over one careless sentence. One. I asked. You know what I mean. I do. That's the problem. She exhaled sharply. A man who really loves a woman doesn't run the first time he feels uncomfortable. I looked at the unopened box of invitations on my counter. Our names were printed together in gold lettering. I hadn't been able to throw them away yet. I said, a mother who really loves her daughter doesn't encourage her to humiliate someone into obedience. Denise went quiet. Then she said, Vanessa was confused. She was under pressure. That's not an excuse. She didn't mean to lose you. No, she meant to scare me. Denise's voice hardened. You are being cruel. I'm being done. Frank called later that night. I let it go to voicemail. His message was short. Paul, she went too far. I know that. But canceling everything makes this public. Think carefully. That was the closest anyone in her family came to admitting the truth, and even then, his concern wasn't that Vanessa had hurt me. It was that people could see the wound. Some deposits were lost. The venue retainer was gone. The florist kept part of the payment because materials had already been ordered. The photographer gave me a partial credit I would probably never use. The DJ sent a kind email that simply said, "I'm sorry this happened." Every lost dollar stung. But every paused payment felt like cutting a rope I had mistaken for a lifeline. The ring issue went through the attorney. I didn't text Vanessa about it again. I didn't meet her in a parking lot. I didn't listen to Denise's demand that I return Vanessa's property while pretending the receipt and circumstances didn't exist. It was handled slowly, formally, and without another dinner table performance. Vanessa's public version fell apart in pieces. Not all at once. Not with a dramatic confession. Real life is messier than that. Some people still believed I was too harsh. Some thought I should have waited until after dinner. A few said taking the ring back in front of everyone was humiliating, as if the humiliation had begun when I stopped smiling. But the people who mattered most to me saw enough. My brother read the screenshots, put his phone down, and said, "I'm sorry you were trying to marry someone who studied you like that." That sentence hurt worse than anything Vanessa's family said because it was accurate. She had studied me. She knew I avoided conflict. She knew I hated making scenes. She knew I paid deposits on time, answered uncomfortable emails, and stayed calm when people pushed me. Then she mistook all of that for permission. About a month after the dinner, I finally opened the box of invitations. I expected to feel shattered. Instead, I felt tired. The cardstock was thick and expensive. Our names looked beautiful together. The date stared back at me like a door I had almost walked through without checking what was on the other side. I threw most of them away. I kept one. Not because I missed the wedding. Because I wanted one physical reminder of what I almost ignored. Not the woman. Not the party. The warning. I deleted the wedding countdown app that night. It asked me if I was sure. For some reason, that tiny pop-up made me laugh. Yes, I was sure. Vanessa sent one final email a few days later. The subject line was, "Years." I almost deleted it unread. Then I opened it because curiosity is not always wisdom. She wrote that I had made her feel abandoned. That I had turned people against her. That couples say stupid things. That I had always promised to be steady and then left when things were hard. Near the end, she wrote, "I hope one day you realize nobody is perfect and you threw away someone who loved you." I sat with that sentence for a long time. Then I replied, "I didn't need perfect. I needed respectful. I hope you understand the difference before you ask someone else to marry you." I never sent another message. The wedding ended before it became a marriage I would have spent years trying to survive. I used to think love meant absorbing embarrassment to protect the relationship. I thought being calm meant staying. I thought being patient meant giving someone endless chances to hurt me in slightly different ways. I was wrong. Calm can also mean standing up, asking for your ring back, and walking out before the people laughing at you realize the joke is over. I lost money. I lost plans. I lost the version of Vanessa I had been protecting in my head. But I kept my dignity, my records, and the part of me that still believes marriage should feel safe without making one person feel small. That was worth more than a wedding. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.